Before we begin the show, let me explain something here. I'm filming this during a power outage, which is why the lighting is so bad. I got one window, but normally the overhead should be going to, but I just don't have that option today. The reason I'm filming indoors on a gorgeous day though is because the power company is about 50 feet that way fixing the problem. A bunch of really cool guys, but they're working, they're making a lot of noise. And if that one bird over my head was bugging the heck out of you guys during that one video that I had filmed, yeah, that's gonna just drive you off your rocker. So that's why I'm indoors filming this video today during a power outage, because I want to get the video out in time, because I just like you guys that much. No need to thank me, we're good. One of the sad facts of life is that when you hang around with something long enough, you're going to accumulate, for lack of a better term, enemies. Unfortunately, it's going to happen. You're going to run into people who you just can't stand or who just can't stand you. And unlike a reality TV show, you can't just throw them off the show. You have to learn how to deal with them. Now, case in point for me is these two guys right over here, Mike and John Henry. So what am I doing in a picture with these guys while I'm grinning like a cat that just ate the canary? Yeah, there's a story behind that. Punch the Wayback Machine, we're going all the way back to the mid-90s. See, back then there was this magazine. I can't really call it a little magazine because it was printed. Huge magazine. It was way oversized. And it was called the Paintball Player's Bible. The Paintball Player's Bible changed its name in 1998 to something you guys might be a little more familiar with, Paintball 2Xtremes, or PB2X. See, they renamed it after a format that they also invented, a 3-man speedball format, but they debuted it at Skyball in '98 and it utterly flopped, but the magazine kept the name, but yet another story. There's no really good, sensitive way to put this. The Henrys, basically, they were into blackmailing the industry. If you were not with them, you were obviously against them. If you were against them, you were pretty much fair game to get trashed in their magazine. A good example of this is back in the late 90s, 99 I think it was, when Brass Eagle had their problem with Paintball 2Xtremes. Yeah, Brass Eagle pulled their sponsorship out of Paintball 2Xtremes magazine for whatever reason. And Paintball 2Xtremes then took that as full reign to basically trash them in their magazine. I can already hear some keyboards firing up from some of the old timers. Yeah, they were talking about the goggle thing, but it wasn't just the goggle thing. I mean, they tried 3 or 4 different angles against Brass Eagle until they found one that kinda, maybe, sorta stuck. And a bunch of us on the internet cumulatively screamed bovine excrement in several ways. And the funny thing was, way back then, the industry actually came onto the forums and defended themselves, but in this case, the Henrys pretty much just got their asses handed to them on a regular basis on rec.sport.paintball. It got so bad that they had to go over to a different Usenet group. I think it went to paintball.nl at that point to defend themselves because they were saying, oh, we're defending ourselves and nobody has anything to say. Yeah, it's because nobody could find your posts. And this is where I come in. You see, before the whole Brass Eagle thing broke, I was actually working for the Henrys. I was working at Paintball 2Xtremes. I had my own little column there called If It Were Up to Me. And they wanted me to have a highly opinionated piece about what I would change in paintball if I had the absolute power to do so. That was their thing. They were trying to replicate the whole Skater magazine kind of attitude of sort of being in your face and kind of being highly opinionated and not really saying much. So when the whole Brass Eagle thing started to go, I was one of the more outspoken people on rec.sport, and they pretty much dropped my column like a hot potato. And this began a period of about 6 or 7 months where they were trashing me by name in their magazine, which is of course high quality there. Then they also had the Monday Report, which was sort of a weekly fax thing that was sent out to people within the industry, a subscription thing of course. And they would trash me by name in that. And among other things, I think they were calling me a mouthpiece for Brass Eagle. They were saying that I was on their payroll, I think. I think they also went as far as to say that I had no journalistic integrity. Yeah, this is from a bunch of guys who were basically trashing people who weren't paying them off. Now the funny part of this is that I actually got a writing job for Paintball Sports because of the Monday Report. You see, because when they would write the Monday Report, they would put in somebody's name and then in brackets they would put everybody that that person worked for. And I guess the idea was to name and shame and to try to put pressure on all these other companies to get rid of the guy who was the troublemaker. It worked the opposite way, you see, because Jerry Braun wanted free advertisements, so he picked me up specifically so that the Monday Report would name his magazine every time they would mention my name. So in the midst of all of this, the Henrys decided to start their own scenario series, and this was kind of a fad at the time. A whole bunch of people were trying to get these traveling scenario games all over the country. The Henrys decided to start the Millennium series. And if you're kind of perking your ears up and going, hey, wait a minute, isn't that the name of a tournament series? Yeah, it is now. And the other fad was to try to tie in the entire series together so that all of the games would have like one running storyline. That was what they wanted to do. Yeah, that doesn't really work. So they decided to run their game at Fox in April, and the people at Fox even told them, no, you don't want to run your game in April along the Fox River. And they're like, no, we want to do it anyway, Yeah, the field flooded. And that's just kind of the nature of the beast. I mean, Fox River floods in April. That's just what it does. If you're local, you know this. So the Saturday game came, and they're just standing out of the gate, and they're just like, we gotta cancel. And actually, it was kind of funny how many people got jumped in their cars and drove to Challenge Park to go play instead. The game was rescheduled for the very next day, and the flood water did recede, mostly. I mean, if you played at Fox after it floods, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It gets kind of muddy out there. And they were advertising about how cool the game was going to be. They had a PA system all set up across the field so they could make announcements that everybody could hear. They're going to crank music during the games. Yeah, that didn't last very long. See, they cranked Rob Zombie first thing on a Sunday morning at like about 9 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, that didn't go really well with the neighbors. They threatened to call the cops if they didn't turn the music down or off. Yeah, so the music didn't last the entire time. And you know the scenario is bad, that when they start making a PA announcement, you can predict what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, and who's going to be affected by it. I remember sitting in the parking lot and hearing this thing coming over the PA, and I'm like, okay, here comes the Y2K bug. Oh no, here goes the Y2K bug! And they're going to eliminate some people off the field in the BS manner. Okay, everybody with a red dot on their badge, you're eliminated right now because you're dead. And everybody's looking at me like, how'd you know that? Because this is a bigger trope than jumping a shark? The stuff that was going on the actual field itself was just so badly planned that it ended up that I figured, you know what, I'm just going to go play speedball. I should mention this too. You see, they had this 3-man tournament going on during the big scenario game. So that you could play in this, and if your 3-man team won, you would win X amount of points that would be applied to your team's overall score from the scenario game. Not a bad idea, except it would swing the balance way too wild. And in our case, I mean, I was jumping out there with a PGP, but we were still kicking butt the entire time, and we had pretty much wiped the field with anybody who wanted to come play against us because they were just not fielding speedball players on the speedball field, and we had people who knew what they were doing. And because of this, our team took a really, really significant lead by the end of the game, and the way they ended the game was complete and total crap too, but I'm not even going to go there right now. Which leads me back to the picture, because they had to give me the certificate of commendation they were giving to everybody else with the same pomp and circumstance, because that's just what they did. So yeah, I got a picture with 2 people who really couldn't stand my guts, and they had to smile for it. Now to me, here's the punchline. You see, they're not involved in paintball anymore. They got essentially bought out. As far as I understand it, a bunch of the advertisers got together, pooled their money, went to the Henrys and said, okay, what's it going to take to get you out of this damn sport? It was never quite disclosed how much money exchanged hands, but very quickly Paintball 2Xtremes went to a more mainstream style format. They've shrunk the magazine down to a more reasonable size. They changed the editor, they changed the whole style entirely, and it basically became pretty much like PGI was, except like the stateside version. And to me, the takeaway is that sometimes you don't need to outscream, you don't need to outfight, you don't need to out-resource your enemy, you just need to outlast them. And yeah, sure, I don't play as much as I used to because I got bad knees and the back surgery and all the other stuff that's wrong with me, but I'm still here. And I'm still making content.